As many of you probably already heard, there's been another shooting. This time it was at a video games tournament in Jacksonville, Florida. And the gunman opened fire there and took 4 lives, injuring 11, as well, that's at least has been reported so far. The gunman has been killed. He killed himself with a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and police are still investigating it. They haven't released a name, picture, anything, which we're actually going to get to that subject in a little bit because it's a little interesting. But uh, that's pretty much the story. I mean, I've heard from some sources that he was mad that he lost the game, and so he rage quit and shot the place up. So that's what
Yeah,
I've been hearing.
really brings another meaning to the word rage quit when you go out in this mirror. Like, this is BS. Like I'm kind of surprised that they allowed like guns into this establishment if this was like a big tournament or whatever. But I mean, well, let's be real. This is Florida, and you get like the most craziest people out there in Florida. Like it's like every day I see someone that's getting caught banging an alligator. Someone's holding themselves up on like a there's like a telephone pole, like a light post for like the like red light and stuff. And he's like pooping on cars. There's like the zombie thing with the bath salts a couple years back. Like Florida's just like a really crazy part of the United States. But it's like the blood hasn't even settled when you see people like who was it, Andrew Cuomo, who's a New York governor, and he's already caught like yelling at the NRA for this, which I don't know how the NRA has anything to do with this. I doubt the guy was an NRA member, and he's already like saying that they need more gun control. Tariq Nasheed's blaming white supremacists and like white
Well,
people.
I'm gonna give a little context to that tweet because he said that way back in July, but it's kind of ironic that he goes, well, for years I've been warning people that the gaming community is a hotbed for white supremacist extremists. Many of these popular gamers from YouTube are low key and open white supremacists. White supremacists. Now, a former neo-Nazi has admitted that they use the gaming industry to recruit dangerous white extremists. Hashtag stay woke. And now something he posted on his Instagram about ex-neo-Nazi explains how white supremacists use Fortnite, Minecraft, and COD to recruit. This isn't like a big issue though. Like these people make up less than 1% of the population. Like he's worrying about something he doesn't need to worry about.
Yeah, like just for context, like mass shootings are like less than 1% of the shooting deaths each year. Like the real issue
Yeah.
is you see like the people in what's that, Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, like there's like more deaths than this, like by far, like every single like day
Oh
almost.
yeah.
It's really bad. That's why they call like Chirac. It's just
Chirac.
like, yeah, it's a terrible place to live. And like honestly, like mass shootings, even the most egregious ones are like not even a blip on the radar compared to how many like thousands and thousands of people die. And like 80% of like like all these gun owners, very very few of them ever use a gun for crime. Like they're some of the most law-abiding people. It's like when you get these
Mm-hmm.
like edge cases, you try to go make the norm, and the left wants to go and say, oh, just because like 0.01 like 0.001% of gun owners commit like crimes and gun shootings means that we need to go and have gun control. But when you mention the fact that immigrants from certain like countries that they actually do some like terrorism and whatnot, and then they have a big problem with that. Like there's a big issue with that. And the thing with the guns, like like it's not like a terrorist or like someone from a backwards culture. Like the gun has no ideology. It doesn't. It's not a terrorist. It's an inanimate object. It has no mind of its own. And when we see these things, they all show their true stripes. You see, like David Hogg's already on the Twitter, although this time he hasn't like really said anything. Like I haven't really seen any of his like super gun control-y stuff this time, so I'll give it a couple days.
Well, what I was
But
gonna say, what I actually agree with David Hogg for once, because he said in his tweet, "If you see in any outlet, report the name of the shooter or show their face immediately. Call them and demand they edit the name and face out. If they refuse, simply unsubscribe and unfollow. Hashtag no notoriety." That's something I can back because we've talked about this before. I believe in some real news episodes you guys can go back and check where we said one of the biggest problems is that you're making these people celebrities, and that's part of the reason they do these things. Now, in this particular case, it doesn't sound like that's why this guy did this. It sounds like he legitimately rage quit, but it should be an example, a precedent we should be setting is to not do that. He goes on first, saying we need to stop making these domestic terrorists famous now. I fucking agree with that. I can't believe what I'm about to do, but I'm gonna like David Hogg's tweet right there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That if you're a news outlet, you probably shouldn't be showing the faces and stuff of the shooters because a lot of these people get off on, oh, I can get my 15 minutes of fame if I go and do this. Like you see, like a bunch of crazy people. Like who was it? Was it the one who shot up like the one where David Hogg was at? Like who was actually like he wanted to be famous, and that's one of the reasons why he did it. But I think he
I
had like
believe
all these
so.
like videos about that. It was
Yeah,
either him or it was like one of them who just wanted to be famous
yeah.
any means necessary. And that's really wrong. And I think that's part of the reason why we see these mass shootings. And like, it sucks that that happened. And I'm just gonna wait. They're gonna be like, "Oh, we need to ban AR-15s and watch it be like a pistol or something." I
Yeah,
mean, it could. It doesn't. It didn't even have to be an AR-15. There was like 13 shots. Like they have pistols that can do that. It's not like 30 or 50 rounds. Even then, I don't even think it matters. However many rounds they have, they could just reload. It's not particularly hard to go and reload a rifle or a pistol.
yeah. Well, it's interesting also what David Hogg was doing today. He said, "While so and so and so and so and I were marching against our gun violence in front of Smith and Wesson, another shooting occurred in Jacksonville, Florida, and yet hashtag another FL shooting. We know what is he trying to say? We know change. Oh, I see what he's saying. We know change will not come until we demand it this November and after." So he's pushing for midterm stuff. Now, this is where he could get into a bit of a self-inflicted wound here, is because that's going to, I think, hurt his cause if he keeps pushing for gun control, because that's going to drive Republican voters out. That's going to drive them out. If you push for gun control, that I think is going to energize the right more than it does the left.
Oh, it does. Like every time you see one of these big mass shootings, the left starts to go and demand gun control, and then you see like NRA memberships like spike, and then you'll see like sales of guns, like especially AR-15s, they'll spike. Like I remember when I bought my first AR-15, it was like what they have. It was the one with the Lanza kid, or I don't even want to say his name.
Oh
The
yeah, that was the Newtown shooting, or Sandy Hook. Sorry, Sandy Hook.
Yeah, when they had the Sandy Hook shooting, that was when when I like right around when I turned 18, and because of that, the price of AR-15s were like crazy expensive. I had to spend like $800 on something that was probably like a $600 gun, just because of that. But yeah, I would definitely do that because once they do it, that's gonna be the last chance you have to go and buy it. Just look at like the price of machine guns these days; they're ridiculously expensive if you want to go and buy one of them because of stuff like this. And that's what's going to happen. It just like causes a spike in the market. And he is either inadvertently or not helping the NRA more than he's hurting it. Like he
Yeah.
can go and do these little protests, and he has a right to protest. I don't think he should be protesting, Smith and Wesson. They're an American gun company. I don't really like they provide so many jobs. Like I don't really see how he's providing jobs. How he's like really doing anything to like help out. Like he's just protesting. Like I don't really see being like a professional, like political activist, community organizer, what have you. I don't really think that helps out too many people. Like you're better off having a private business and then donating your money rather than just like being a political activist because that really doesn't do too much for a lot of people. Like that's kind of my
And
thoughts
he's
on it.
not
Like
very persuasive either. And he's, going after gun manufacturers, which I get what he's thinking. He's probably thinking, I'm going to go to the source. The NRA is just the middleman. We're going to go even a step further. But the problem is, Smith and Wesson just makes a tool. They're not at fault here. It's like, I think there were some bills that, like, I believe Hillary was pushing for, or others, where they would hold gun manufacturers accountable for school shootings. I mean, that's just fucking crazy. But I do see a one unifying thing being this: let's not name the shooter, let's not publicize it. Even Count Dankula tweeted out, who is in his Twitter bio says pro free speech, said, "Imagine being so much of a bitch boy or losing a video game that you shoot people. His name henceforth is Bitch Boy. Ignore his real name. When it gets released, his name is Bitch Boy." I totally agree, and that's the mentality we need to start thinking of. But then you have
yeah,
leftists, like, oh, you want to add to that?
oh yeah, I agree. And Mr. Medicare said something about this for the. It was like the really really weird guy had like a shotgun and he like fired 50 shots, only killed like 3 people in a convenience store. He was like really into. I think it was like, it wasn't My Little Pony. It was the Danny Phantom shooter. Yeah, it was like he did a whole video on that, and like he basically made fun of him because that's what he's gonna be remembered by, not because he committed a shooting, but because what a pathetic individual he was. And
Yeah.
I agree with that. Like, you know, these people, they need to go and like realize they won't be remembered as like any sort of inspirational hero. They'll be remembered as like some like loser who was just so bad at life that they end up like trying like ruining other people's lives because they suck so much. And I think there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think mocking these people is a good thing. There's a certain level of mocking that is good, as a social pressure, because I think some people, you could always say can go too far to bullying, but in cases like these people where they do something evil and awful, you should mock them, relentlessly so that you discourage other people from doing it. But the problem we're now having is people like the Palmer report says that Donald Trump hasn't tweeted anything about the Jacksonville shooting at the Madden tournament. In all seriousness, he's probably waiting to find out the skin color of the shooter before deciding how to respond. This is the fucking problem right here. Identity politics in a fucking shooting. I mean,
Yeah,
how many times do we have to say it's not about this, it's not about that, it's not about guns, it's not about identity politics, about fucking mentally ill people, crazy people, and it's about cultural problems or this weird culture we have in America that is contributing these things. But he's got to make it about fucking race every goddamn time somebody's got to do this. Trump doesn't give a shit about race. He hires black people. He doesn't give a shit about religion. His daughter is Jewish, who married a Jew. He's around Jews all the time, and he's one of the most pro-Israel presidents ever that moved the embassy to Jerusalem. I mean, this whole idea that Trump's a racist, so that's why he doesn't respond to certain things, is so silly. Maybe Trump's a bit busy. I don't know. Maybe he's in the middle of something.
maybe he's waiting for all the facts to come out. Like, maybe he
Maybe. How dare he do that? Because guess what? Here's the thing he's not pointing out. We don't know who the shooter is. We don't fucking know. This fuck doesn't know. I don't fucking know. You don't fucking know. The police probably know it, now, and they're maybe not releasing it yet. I don't know. Maybe they don't fucking know. This guy's acting like he's making the big assumption that Trump knows.
yeah, and he's got a lot more important things on his mind than like really addressing this. Like he's has like the whole Mueller investigation spawned by the left. He's has like the whole Russia in like problems. He's got midterms to worry about. And then you have the shooter, which what's he gonna do? Like oh my hearts and minds go out to you or whatever. Like that's all he could really say at the moment. And whatever he says, he's gonna be bitched at by people.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. There's some people that are um, saying that they found some Twitter accounts. I'm looking at this thread from Nick Monroe. They're saying that, oh, they found the shooter's Twitter. I'm not entirely sure if any of that's going to be true, but it's definitely something to keep following. And yet,
Yeah.
the people always talk about this Mueller thing as this cloud over Trump, and then you could argue, hey, let's shouldn't we end it now so we can make these things quicker and easier in his life?
Absolutely, but yeah, right now there isn't too much information out, so there's only so much we can really say about this until they release the full facts of the matter.
Yeah.